Hey, what's going on? Welcome to the Doug Show. My name is Doug Cunnington, and in this episode, we get an update from Christy for July. So we'll dig into the details. If you are listening for the first time or you haven't been keeping up, Christy has been doing a case study with me this year and actually last year too, so you could follow along with some of the other updates to get all the background and historical information. But Christy, how's it going today?
Hey, it's going pretty well. How are you?
Doing great. And yeah, we got good news this month for the July update. This year's been kind of up and down, and it's been
Yep.
hard to really make sense of it all. But yeah, why don't we just jump right into it and hear about the earnings for July and traffic and the normal metrics that we go over?
Sure. So for July, ended up on earnings at 7,032, which is the highest of this year so far. And just to put it in perspective, last year, the two highest months were 7,300 and 9,000. 9,000 was a holiday month. So this is pretty darn close to my highest for last year. So that makes me feel pretty good. And then traffic wise, I also saw that tick up this month. So we were at 127,000. And that was kind of steadily across the whole month instead of like occasionally I'll get a really weird traffic blip. But I like to see that it was a bit steadier and higher this month. And then for expenses, I was at 2,600, which is about the same as last month.
Got it. And one cool thing with the earnings, and people can go over to the blog post, which we'll link up, where you have some screenshots. So you have a chart, and it's really easily detectable that this month is like one of the highest earning months ever. And if I remember right, some of your other high months had some digital product sales that kind of boosted it up. And I could be off a little bit, but this is kind of just pure revenue, and you have a pretty even split between your ad revenue and your affiliate revenue. So can you talk a little bit about a few of those details?
Yes. So that's correct. This month didn't have a ton of my own product sales. So it is primarily Amazon and ad earnings. Typically, they're almost like exactly 50-50 for those. This year, it's been a little bit higher on ads, usually. This month, I expected to see a dip overall because last year earnings dipped for both going from June to July. But for some strange reason that we are happy about, Amazon actually went up fairly significantly, about $1,000 up over last month, which is awesome. And ads went down a little bit, just by like $175 or something. But it was interesting. So ads typically, if people don't do ads, the first month of a quarter is a little bit lower usually on earnings for ads. So assuming that is probably what that was, but I'm usually not seeing such a big spread between those two.
Do you have any idea why Amazon went up so much?
I mean, it was the Prime Day month, but again, that's just one day, right? So I don't know. Like earnings throughout the month were just higher. I had a lot of days over $100, so it was a little bit strange, but not complaining.
Yeah, and I wonder, it's interesting. I mean, I guess people would have purchased more stuff across the month. Like you said, the earnings were pretty even.
Yes.
So obviously, like if you look at the number of products that people purchased is probably a higher number. Yeah, it's interesting. You have no
And potentially,
real evidence. Yeah.
some seasonality, which we've talked about in the past. Like there may be a bit more seasonality to the site than initially it looked like. So it's possible that, middle of summer, more people purchasing could be that too.
Yeah, and then we have the recession and like the uncertainty, and people, we speculated before people maybe weren't spending as much money, but we haven't had any like economic signs in air quotes that things are better that would indicate that people are like more confident in spending more money.
Gas prices
So
are down.
what'd you say?
Amazon is up. gas prices are down, Amazon is up. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they are in the last week or whatever since
Yeah.
we're recording this, but I think in July it was still expensive, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
still spending the same amount, so I'm doing my part. That's all I
Yeah.
can.
We're doing what we can.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then so revenue's higher, and I encourage people to check out the chart because we started tracking this from the very beginning at the end of 2018. So the site's a few years old, but you could see the slow trajectory, and then some ups and downs, some seasonality, but overall just growth. So
Yep. And just, a reminder for anyone who hasn't been listening, like the first month I made any money was $14. So it's quite a difference over
yeah,
just a couple of years.
yeah. Your traffic is 127,000, actually almost 128,000.
Mm-hmm.
And do you remember what the highest trafficked month that you've had? Are you getting close to that, or is that like a retail season
I
timeframe?
am. I think this is actually the highest
Okay.
that I've had. I
Okay.
think last year the highest I had was 125. And for comparison, last month of this year was 116.
Okay.
So that's
Well,
exciting.
yep, that's great. I was going to say it seems like a little bit of a higher number, and I
I
think
had noticed that.
yeah. And you're talking about ad revenue being a little lower, and then we had some Amazon revenue kind of lower than we expected for a lot of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems to have bounced back. So fingers crossed that holds up. But I'm looking at it and I'm kind of making an analogy in my brain with how the stock market reacts. And if you're in, let's quote, index fund investor, like you keep investing in dollar cost averaging, you put your money in, you get shares at a lower price, and they often return even during the market downturn. It's the best time to buy when you're in a recession, right? Because everything's down.
Right.
So I kind of view this the same, where like you're getting more traffic. So I'm equating that as shares. You're getting more traffic. Revenue's down on a per user basis, but if you keep getting more and more traffic, publishing more content, when people start spending again, whether it's the advertiser or the consumer,
Right.
like it'll bounce back. So maybe the retail season will be like, more than you expect. I don't know.
I hope so.
Yeah.
That would be lovely.
So back to the traffic stuff. One assignment I gave you, several months ago, you finally got around to creating a custom report for the new content that you published this year. Can you
Mhm.
tell us about what you learned?
Yes. So, to my credit, I did have it last month, but I hadn't updated all the URLs from all the extra stuff that we'd posted. So, I went through and did that a couple days ago. So now everything for the year is in there, and it is nice. I included a screenshot of it in the blog update, but you can see like a very clear upward trajectory of traffic for all the new content. And it's so far generated 35,000 sessions since March when I started publishing. And that's
Awesome.
about 156 articles, I think.
And I'll quickly describe the graph. So it starts back in, I would say,
It's March 1st.
March. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. So March, and there's hardly any traffic there. And then at the end, it's just steadily climbing. At the end, it looks like about 750 visitors, sessions per day, rather.
Mhm.
And that's great. It's steadily growing, and I would expect it to, eventually it'll plateau, but
Yep.
it'll keep growing, and you're publishing, continually. You're continually publishing new content, so it should keep growing. That stuff should age and kind of plateau out. So this would have been great to have, especially months ago, even before I asked, just because it gives you some confidence that whatever you're working on is working a little bit. So yeah, any surprises here? Did you expect to see that?
Um, I was hopeful to see that. I had no idea how much it would be. I just have no sense of how long that's going to take. I'm curious once we get to probably like December, I'm curious to pull out which of, those 200, 250 articles by then are kind of the standouts. I mean, I was just curious. because my highest posts generally are not anything that I thought they would be. So I'm always just intrigued to see which topics ended up kind of breaking through. So I'll be looking for that.
One thing to put on your ongoing list, I went through a similar exercise, created the same kind of a report. And basically, I think I took like the top 20 posts that were getting the most traffic at a snapshot in time, and basically had a couple writers go back and go ahead and improve those a little bit more. The way I was publishing, which is a little bit different than yours, is, I mean, I had an agency work on it, and they were aiming for a sort of lower word count overall. So it's kind of a bare bones, just get the content out there.
Sure.
It starts getting traction, and now we can go back, and instead of the 1,000 words that they had initially, we could bump it up to 2,500, add a lot more information.
Yep.
You just have to omit stuff if you're limited by word count. So we could go back and fill it in a little more strategically after it has momentum. So I would highly recommend that. I picked 20 kind of arbitrarily, but you could do the top 30% of those articles, however you want to do it.
Well, and that's the other thing is, so Friday I'll meet with my content manager about kind of getting people into new roles. And one of those will be someone that's dedicated to improving the existing content. So I'll be using probably SERP robot results whenever I get notifications about things going in or out of top 10s to kind of make her a hit list, but I could put that on her list as well.
Yep. And actually that's a great, using the rankings to guide that is really good too. And I think both of those pieces of data where you could take the top 20% from each one of those, or however you want to do it, or, anything ranking like number 2 to number 5 is like on the cusp of getting pushed up. So.
Yep. And typically, so like word count for anyone who hasn't been following along that long, kind of what I ask for all the time is 1,000 words is just kind of my baseline. We do have some topics that are just going to be skinnier. So those are usually 500 words. I don't really publish much below that. So as far as, adding content, it would be pushing things to probably 1,500 words or 2,500, like you said.
So one of the big focus areas is, publishing new content. How is that going overall? Are you on target? You've relaxed your aggressive publishing goals, but where are you at now? So 156.
Yep. So I think by the end of August we'll be around 200. So there are some that are just sitting and waiting on me to review because I had people in town and I had, life in July. So some waiting on me, but we've gotten about 175 done. And about 156 are published. And then as far as the holiday sprint, which I kind of initially had as a separate thing, I'm just prioritizing some of the more buyer's intent posts to get done earlier so that they have kind of baked by the holidays. So overall, I feel pretty good about it. It's going super smoothly.
Okay.
It's just, I have to go put my eyes on things and put in affiliate links and do some of that stuff that I like to do myself. And this month I just got busy.
Got it. All right. Yeah, it's fine to take time off in the summer. We've been really busy around here too.
Yeah.
So.
I've stopped the guilt strategy. So I'm not doing it anymore. If I get it done, that's great. If not, well, there's still next month. So.
Yeah, there's plenty of time.
Yep.
So another area was selling products. So I think last time you were like, we're, launching the second course. And before we talk about that, can you just talk about like the course approach? And you had, one you created before, you've launched it a couple times, and how you ended up launching the second one here.
Yep. So we had one course I guess it was, at the end of last year. Launched in December, I think. Sold about 12 courses there. And then every quarter we kind of go back and talk about it. Sold a couple extra that way. So anyway, yes, the second course, we followed just the exact same, like same amount of emails, same structure, same landing page, sales page structure, all that kind of good stuff. But we actually didn't sell any this time. So that was something. And the other data point I would say, the positive is that the list that I have reached 5,000, which is great. Negative being that our unsubscribes were 3 times normal this month, which I attribute to people not wanting a bunch of emails about courses. So that is a bit of an up and down.
So with the course, with the new course, do you think, where do you think you went wrong? And there's a couple areas that I could suggest, but I'm just curious what you think.
Well, I guess the other thing I would say is post-launch, I've now gone through about 20, what I would call like feeder posts that I specifically picked related to that topic. And I've now added like a course CTA within those. So we'll see if that's kind of an evergreen funnel for that. So I did that just like 2 days ago.
Got it.
So that's out there. Like it's still out there anytime. Where it went wrong, I think that overall, like the hunger that people have is for pretty much completely video courses, which is not something that I am really able to do for a lot of these topics for various reasons. Mm-hmm. So that's just not how my courses are going to be. Mine are primarily written content. So I think that's not what people are mostly after when they sign up for a course, and that's fine. But yeah, I think that's one thing. I think we did a pretty good job picking topics purely based on like what I'm seeing in the market. I think we did okay pricing them. I think the size is pretty generous. Like there's a lot there. But I think as you and I chatted about a couple of times over the last couple of months, like the people on my list are maybe not the right people to be purchasing because the little lead magnet that I have for joining the list, which works really well, is about saving money. And so it may just also be that people on the list they're not real big spenders.
Right.
So that's something I didn't anticipate when I made that and really didn't put together until we started talking about it like 2 months ago.
Yep. Interesting. Yeah. And you hit a couple of the main areas. So is the product any good, right? So you were like, maybe people just want video at this point, which makes a lot of sense.
Sure.
If it's not video, then you may as well. Maybe it's better as an ebook. Like maybe brand it as an ebook and price it as such. Mm-hmm. Then you got to sell a lot more of those. Yep. It's harder to make those expensive. But there was a time where ebooks were $60, $100. Like they were priced like a small course. The other, you could have a good product, but it's for the wrong audience, which you talked about. And that's I maybe gave the example before, but yeah, if your audience that you're selling to is a bunch of people that don't want to spend any money, like whatever it might be, like a quick example is like if people are trying to pay off debt, like it'd be kind of a jerky thing to do to sell them a product to like get out of debt that they would have to go into debt for. So that's not a good fit either. Right. Sometimes it could be, like you said, pricing or the sales page, some part of the offer. But yeah, usually you end up with like a couple sales where like someone's like, oh, this. So it is, that I would say that is a sign there's a huge disconnect potentially with the audience. Just the wrong people. Yep. As far as the email list, totally normal. When you're selling stuff and you're sending more emails than normal, those people will fall off the list. And typically, that's just sort of the churn, the cost of doing business. Like if you're running a business and you're selling stuff, you got to sell some you have to sell some. And if they're not the right customer, then it's okay if they drop off. Some people get really, they're like, I don't want to lose anyone on the email list, but are you trying to run a business or like run a email list that costs you money? So
Yep.
sometimes people unsubscribe, even if they like you, you know,
Right.
they're just not into it.
Well, and it just makes me think that maybe, if I were to do another smaller, digital guide, like I've done a couple of that are like $9, I would probably try doing one that was related to saving money and just see if that was something that, just as a data point, if this group of people is more interested in that, that lets me know.
Yeah. Maybe you remember those old coupon books that you would sell for like a fundraiser at school?
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember those?
Yeah.
Maybe you could put together a coupon book and just get sponsors. Like that'd be an interesting
I do remember
shift.
that.
You're like, you could save whatever $300 with this book, but they have to buy it for $30.
Right. That's a good point.
Yeah. Well, with the courses, and I feel bad because a lot of last year and a lot of effort, I was like, all right,
Doug. You like video.
sell your own courses. Margins are great. Like they can work out, but this is a case where it's like you've put in a good amount of effort. So where do you stand? You have a couple courses, you're paying, the course platform Teachable each month.
Right.
Like,
so I'm now, I went to a lower level of Teachable. So it's $40 a month. So that's not as bad. I used to be paying like 120 something, which I didn't feel great about. So down to 40, it is what it is. Like I keep them out there. I'm going to try stuffing them in those feeder posts, and, we'll probably relook at it in another quarter, but I don't plan on investing more in them at the moment. Once I kind of get the new team roles in place, we're going to have an actual content calendar, which we haven't had before. So I can be a little bit intentional about the same topic being across like blogs, social, email, all of that. So we might be able to have just a bit more of a longer funnel to some of these things than we currently do.
What would you think about just scrapping the digital products and just move on with your life?
Like the guides too, or just like courses?
Yeah, whatever, but both of them, one of them.
I mean, I don't plan on like investing a bunch more in that by any means at the moment. I'd be open to reusing the content in some other way. But at the moment, I would say I'm more into just like making the new content. And then I'm really interested in improving the existing stuff because there's like 650 posts out there.
Yeah. Well, and that's exactly what I'm getting at, where it's like, you could have them sitting around and like try to relaunch them, but like there's not much traction, sunk costs now, right? All the money's gone. Mm-hmm. And do you know how many courses you would need to sell to break even on what you invested?
Oh, I mean, another probably like 30 or 40 between the two.
So if I remember right, you've been selling maybe about 10 or so each launch. Mm-hmm. So that would be like another year to recoup what you've already spent. And just to fill people in, like, so you develop, this is a great debate that we always have, but you develop the course ahead of time, you pay to have it done. So like I said, sunk costs, money's gone.
I traded to have it done, technically.
Say again?
I traded to have it done, technically.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Either way, sunk costs.
Yep.
So, this is a tough decision to make because I think some people out there would be like, well, you could still sell it and make some, but because I know you, Christy, you probably you'd have a little bit less stress if you were like, I don't even have to worry about launches again. I don't have to worry about emails. I could just focus on these three things, the content, updating the old content, and I don't have to sell courses. So I want you to think about that. I mean, I think it's hard to do, but it's really good if you can just say, you know what, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to think about it. Maybe there's a little bit of money left on the table, but it's probably not worth the effort or the brain space that you would have to put into it. So I would definitely consider that, even though I love courses and I encourage people to test them out.
Mhm.
You put in a great effort and even when you were like, I'm not quite sure, but now at this point it's like, you know what? Like
Yep.
everything's fine. There's no reason to keep battling it.
Yeah, I definitely don't plan on like investing any more
Yeah.
time and money in it for at least a quarter. Like maybe it shows up on the content calendar. Maybe it just has a CTA and other emails that we're sending out. That's about as much as I'd be doing with it at the moment. The other thing for this month, I was going to say the strange place that I saw more money was from like other smaller affiliate programs this time, which is unusual. Granted, I don't check them all the time. So some of them I like caught up for a couple of months checking in, but I made like $250 off of like little individual brands that I've joined, which is strange. I mean, out of 7,000, it's not maybe a ton, but it's noticeable. Like it put me over
Right.
7,000.
Yep.
So the other thing I was going to think about doing was for some of those that do have a higher price point for what they're selling, I might do a couple intentional feeder posts for those and see if I could funnel some more money there too. But that was just an interesting thing from this month that usually, that category is like $10, $12,
Interesting.
$60. So catching up on that was nice.
That's good. Yeah. And then the final thought, slightly related to what you just said, but still
Mhm.
around the other products. So you are trying to sell some of your products, especially the more expensive courses, with the calls to action, and you're trying to funnel, use the sales funnel properly. There could be a minor, and I don't know the exact funnel that they're in, but there could be a minor like opportunity cost where you could actually earn more if you're promoting something else. It may
Mhm.
not apply because courses are different than some of the other
Yep.
products out there, but you could have the opportunity to promote other stuff that you'll actually earn more from. And, with opportunity cost, you don't know like what's going to happen. You just have to do it. And then maybe you'll get data that'll reinforce what you're thinking.
Well, so relatedly, I did finish the media kit and
Mm.
put that out there with the same sort of thought of, when someone might be able to pay me $500 for a social post and an email or a brand feature or whatever. And if that happens 3 times a month, like that's already better than what I'm making off of courses. So I think I'll be, once we get kind of our content calendar in place and outreach and things, like I'll be going back to brands that we've worked with in the past and say, hey, now we have these options too. And it may be that becomes a better revenue source than trying to get my own email list to buy people, buy stuff. So we
Yep.
shall see.
Yep. That's a great point. I think that's 100% right. Now you can have just like, not promoting anything else, just whatever that advertiser wants to have on there. So
Yep.
perfect. Cool. Very good. And let's see, I think we covered a lot of the main stuff. Anything go off the rails? Any issues this month?
Nothing really crazy. Like I said, I'm just doing some team reorging stuff, trying to figure out how much I want to be spending on things like keeping social media alive. The only reason I'm even keeping it alive is because we do have brands reach out that way that sometimes do turn into things, like my monthly writing retainer and things like that. So it's worth it to me to keep it alive. I'm not putting a ton of effort there. I do really want to have someone just like owning email, owning a content calendar. Like my content manager is going to do that. And then I'm really excited about having somebody dedicated to existing content and just training them on the process. Like when I give you a post, here's what I would like to see done. I may not even look at it again. I may just have my content manager look at it and, get it out there. So that's kind of what's in the works.
Cool. All right. And just looking through the rest of the update here, trying to see if there's any more detail. But yeah, it looks like, revenue's up, traffic's like some of the highest numbers that you've seen. So
Yep.
Yeah, everything's going great, and we're kind of ramping up to, the fall time.
Holiday season.
Yeah, yeah. So, what are you looking forward to with that? I know you have some content for,
Yep.
like the holiday sprint, as you call it.
Yep. My hope would be that it kind of the timing works out nicely between having a media kit and brands that also want to boost their holiday revenue. So I think it might be a nice time to start doing more outreach, which we'd sort of just gotten away from doing because it's always manual. So I'm curious to see if that gets any traction.
Very good. All right. Well, we'll catch you next month as well to get an update. Hopefully, we'll continue to see the same kind of little, uptick in growth, both in traffic and revenue. So, thanks a lot. And if people have specific questions, they can leave comments or shoot us an email at feedback at Doug.Show. So, thanks.
Cool. Thanks, Doug.